thought I could have that. Really thought I could have that down right. Welcome. And we're live. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Facebook Lives. I'm your host, Dylan. I got with me Matt and Katie, also Jorunn, Pendelve, and Saw. Today, we are going to be reading from our mystery novel, Behind the Shroud. So feel free to tune in. Let us know where you're at. Let us know where you're coming in from. Let us know if you have questions about what we're building. I mean, our job is just sit here, entertain y'all, do an audio drama while we read a book together that Matt has created, and answer questions if the time comes. So as you come in, feel free to say hello. Let us know where you're at. I had someone last week be like, I'm afraid to open your lives because you'll know I'm watching and then you'll say my name. And I'm like, hey, from where I'm at, I don't know who's tuning in. So you can tell us if you want. You do not have to. You can feel free to stick around for as long as you want. Today will be I know I say this every week. Today will for sure be an hour.
An hour, yeah.
And if anything, it might be 45 minutes. Two of us are absolutely gassed, exhausted. Katie, maybe three. Let's say two and not Matt. Katie's one of them for sure. Lack of sleep big time. Visits coming. And me for sure. I have spent the last 2 days going 6 straight hours both days with elementary school kids.
There's not enough coffee in the world for that.
Dude, these are so fun. We do school visits. Kids get to create their callings. So fun. So exhausting.
Can I ask you a couple questions about it before we dive, into the read?
Yeah.
Because honestly, I'm really curious to hear what happens behind the scenes. Very curious.
What's up, everyone? As you tune in, feel free to say hello, where you're at, and what your path is. Sorry, Matt.
Yeah. Because I think I'll do this someday, and I'm just like, man, this is so neat. You're going into schools, you're working with teachers, working with classrooms, sometimes multiple classrooms. So how does it go? I mean, what do you go into the school, then what?
Yeah, so we go for author visits. We've been doing it now for 2 years, pretty much 3 years, because this will be the third year. The first year we only did like 1 or 2 classes. Last year we did full schools. This year we've done full schools. We're working with Title I funding. And we come in, and instead of it being an author visit, oh, yay, hold on, make sure Keith says hi. Boo, he just came and said, boo. Everyone, there's Keith. Make sure you wave.
Hey, Keith.
Say hello.
Great to see you, bud. We love visitors.
There's Morgan, who'll be coming later. I'll call you. So we go in, and instead of doing a typical author visit of, hey, let's come in here and read our book to you, I think kids get that a lot. Plus, it's a comic, so it's like you want to show every picture. We instead come in and do like a workshop. So it is a full creative experience. Matt and we call them imagination incubators. We come in, and we talk to these schools about the power of imagination and creativity, and we give them a chance to create their own calling in the world of Bestunia that can potentially Rhodes,
more visitors.
Hey. Hi, bud. God, he's cute.
So many guest appearances today.
Bye, buddy. But we have these kids basically come up with what their callings would look like in Bestunia, and in the process, they're like basically talking about themselves and what it is that they like. So it's fun, man. We try to make it as like interactive as possible, so it's not just me talking to them. For some of them are an hour and a half long. Yeah,
and that's a long time to be able to maintain. Third graders, or what was today?
Kindergarten to 5th.
Yeah, I mean, any elementary or lower attention span. So that's awesome. And do you find that they're pretty with you throughout the whole session?
Well, you have I think every school we might have 2-3 kids that either don't pay attention or don't want to be there. But 2 or 3 kids out of a full school, I think, is awesome. It is. I've had a couple of teachers come up to me and say, hey, I laughed when I saw you were going to be teaching these kids for an hour and a half, just because it's never happened before to keep their attention that long. And they sit there because I think when it's interactive, it's not just someone talking at you. It's when it's more interactive, I think kids are more into it. But yeah, we had kindergartners paying attention for a full hour. today. It was nuts.
What do you cover that makes it interactive?
Start off, I think when you start off, it's like, hey, who here likes books? And every kid, who here loves comics? Who here loves Pokemon? Every kid raises their hand. And then it's like, who here likes drawing? Yeah. Who here wants to draw their own comic character? So it starts like that. And I think that draws them in. And then it's asking them questions of what they like. So it's, hey, this is a little bit about me, build us up and everything that we're doing, everything that we've done, and then build up the power of imagination and start talking about things like superheroes and Ninja Turtles and Harry Potter, and because all that's to help you tap into your imagination. And when you start doing that, I mean, every kid wants to share about themselves. And I think we are all nerds, big enough nerds where we can speak that language, where it's like, I'm asking kids what their favorite Pokemon are. And like teachers are like, what is he talking about? But I can speak their language, you know? So then the kids get excited. They're like, I have someone that's like me.
Yeah. The guard comes down. It's not a teacher. It's just a big kid.
Yeah. They call me a big leprechaun today.
Nice.
Thanks.
I take it that's a compliment.
I did.
So what, do you get some questions?
Yeah, man. I think questions range from how tall are you to when did you create your first comic and then they'll ask questions about the world, right? Because after we tell them about us and imagination, it's like, who wants to create a character in our world? And we walk them through the frameworks. We say there's 3 paths. Are you a builder? Are you an explorer? Are you a defender? And we explain builders love to create, explorers love to adventure, defenders love the simple things. And they get to pick theirs. And then it's create your beast type. If you're an explorer, are you a mariner, pilot, sprinter, climber? And they get to circle. So you'll have some kids like ask really interesting questions, like, can I be both? Can I get another one so I can create a second one? Can it have this power? What if it can change sizes? Was like a question. Like, what if it can change colors? Because we'll ask them, how big is it? What color is it? So kids get into it, man. They don't ask many questions about the comic world. They just ask questions about like, what can my calling do?
Yeah. The how tall are you makes sense because for those of you that are just tuning in and don't know Dylan personally, he's like 4'6". And the leprechaun thing makes sense too. So he's a small guy. Do you ever have questions that come up and you think, wow, that's actually something that's going to find its way into the comic?
Yes. Oh, it's crazy. You'll find like multiple kids that are like, hey, I want to do this, or I'm like, oh yes. One kid I went up to today, and it's like he was making kind of like a cyborg like calling, and at first I'm like, I mean, that's awesome. I just don't know if it can. And all of a sudden it has like a hammer for a hand, and then its other hand is made of spikes, and I'm like, what's that? And he's like, it's a chainsaw. And I'm like, oh, this might not be good if I keep asking questions. I'm like, what does he use them for? And he's like, no, he uses them to build houses in the Jungian forest. And I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. I would love that. There's another one that had a cat that can grow plants out of its head. That I'm like, that's really cool to put in a certain area. There was another one today. It was like this amoeba. His name's Jeffrey. It was like this amoeba, and the kid loves math. He was a COSI kid, loves math, had his teacher aide there. And it's this amoeba that has all these like fractions and division symbols within it. And then you give it numbers and it can kind of help you with answers. So I'm like, we should put that in the school of Bastunia. So yeah. And the cool part is as we've been growing on social media, we've had artists that love what we're doing that have been starting to follow us. And I like start commenting on their posts, and I'm like, we'd love to do a collaboration. And we have 2 artists that have reached out to us and be like, hey, send me some of these worksheets. I'd love to turn it into my art style and share it with you guys. So if it can be a win-win where these kids get their callings brought to life and artists get a playground to like continue to have ideas, like sweet spot.
Yeah. Artists of all ages. I just saw an email a little bit ago that came from one of the schools sending a bunch of kids' drawings over to us. If we give it a minute, maybe I can pull it up and share some, unless you have some at the ready.
But it's see. Yeah, keep going.
It's cool to see kids submitting their callings, submitting their drawings to us. And on multiple occasions, I have also embedded kids' ideas into the stories and given them credit. Actually, see if I have one right here. I think it's in the back of book.
I don't know if I can zoom in.
Oh, there you go.
But it's like, yeah, we can't zoom in, which is tough. Can we? Hold on.
Yeah, here's an example of a kid's drawing that was brought to life, and then their little write-up made it in the back of book 3.
Yeah, I mean, we want to get to a point where it's like these kids can be like, oh my gosh, I thought of something and I found it in a comic one day. It's like, then you can see what your imagination can lead to. I mean, just so you know, so this is the one side of the paper where they get to draw it. And this is the other side where they describe it. They can take it home, work on it with their parents. I know it's hard to see on this screen, but it's like, what size is it? What color is it? Describe it. What's its story? This one, like, where would it want to go? This one literally just said it would go everywhere that I want to see. But it's like, you get some of these kids, they get so into this stuff, man.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's yeah, I think it's awesome because it's one of the hardest things is trying to color this whole world of what type of callings would be like in the background of certain pages, what ones will be in the forefront. So we have a bunch of ideas. I think the biggest thing, this one's a deer man. I think the biggest thing that we'll need to really be cognizant of as we move forward is like separating the art from the artist. I would never want to have like a kid drew a calling and then it's a main character that runs through challenges. I don't want that kid to be like, oh, that means I have that challenge. So It's like, how can we add them? But that's something that I totally trust us to do. This one it's called Clover, and it grows flowers on the back of a turtle shell. Some kids got to create their Azigra and like what they need, like the battles they need to conquer. So we talk about Azigra being made up of our fears and our worries. So these kids get to write in the picture. It's like, what are the things that make you scared or nervous? Because that our calling is what can help us, overcome it.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those who don't know, what's an Azigra?
Azigra are the main bad guys within Bastunia. They're these shadowy spawns from the cosmos that come into the world, and the whole mindset is chaos. They want to rip people from their callings. They do that through our fears, through our worries, through our anxious times, and it's our callings that can defeat them, right?
Shameless plug for Harbinger and the origin story. That'll come out pretty soon. Almost done. I've been crushing editing. And by that I mean not.
Yeah, dude. We're still hoping June of 2024 of this Harbinger, man. This would be awesome.
Yeah, we're aiming for it. We'll see if it happens. And it's about basically 99 people are brought to the planet of Bastunia by this god, and they know their path, they know their purpose. They're like walking in perfect alignment with themselves around the clock. For a little while, the presence of Azigra quickly creates separation in their hearts and separation in the tribe, and they end up fractured and scattered across Bastunia. That's what they do, is they prevent us from knowing ourselves.
Yeah,
walking our path.
We're encouraging kids to start writing stories of theirs that these kids can bring it to life. And what I think would be awesome on these lives in the future is like reading some of these kids' stories, right? Having fun and seeing if we can bring it to life. But
maybe Katie can play a character in the future.
Yes,
my kid.
Maybe. Yeah. Just read these kids' stories.
Sure,
to the best of your ability.
Probably the next project up after this, after Behind the Shroud, we get all the way through. We're reading chapter 17 to 21, and there's like 50 some chapters. So we got a few weeks left. We'll probably turn to Dylan's writing project of late, which is the teleplay, a word that we both learned in the last 10 days.
It's like screenplay, but for television, animated series. Evan taught us, believe it or not.
Yeah. And it's perfect because we have a narrator, we have characters, and the dialogue is right there. I've got a buddy that's actually taking Harbinger. This is news, and going to turn it into a screenplay.
Oh, love it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. So we'll have more table read projects in the future.
We turned the teleplay into a Hollywood screenwriter, Jonathan Stewart, and I've been texting back and forth with him over the last week. So we're going to jump on a call. Not next week, but the week after, because he's traveling, just for him to kind of give his thoughts, poke some holes in it. What are the things he likes? What are some shifts that we can make? But when you tell the kids, like, hey, we're talking to a Hollywood screenwriter to potentially, fingers crossed, one day turn this into an animated series. I mean, these kids go nuts. How cool would it be that we can get this on a screen and these background characters are colored by kids' imagination around the country? I think things like that are, who wouldn't like that?
Bastunia is supposed to be a world that we can all see ourselves in.
Yeah. And if you, I'm so sorry, just seeing that we have more people tuning in. If you have questions about what we're doing, please feel free to ask us. There's no such thing as a bad question. I won't put it on the screen, but I will be able to see it in the comments. I can always ask. We're also going to be reading these books, so you can ask questions about the book. The book is Behind the Shroud. It is a fantasy mystery. Are you good, Matt, for time that we start shifting to that? Katie would like some sleep.
Yeah, understood. It's been a busy week. Eventful and not always the best of ways. Cool. Well, let's dive in. Actually, as I'm pulling this up, and we're getting Morgan because we're starting with Morgan today.
We're starting with Morgan. We're going to get another guest appearance from Keith. Morgan will probably go off screen. She's like been in her head about these 3 paragraphs that she's going to be reading. So I'll probably move this just over here and she'll read it. You'll think it's me. I'll bring Keith on screen. But yeah, she'll be the first person. She's actually, fun fact, the character that my wife will be playing is a distant relative to Joan Daniels. Pretty cool. Fun fact.
Main character in the comics. This gal right here.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I guess where are we at in the story?
Yeah.
And where are we kicking off? Because it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah. So at this point in the story, Jorunn has been arrested and he's in this pillory in town, and Saw has been really reluctant to go forward with the hanging. One, because Pendelv has kind of requested that, dead man's final wish is that they wait until it's sunny out to do the hanging. Saul had kind of already planned to do that on account of wanting to have everybody in like the public square watching this go down. And so that's one reason why she's been waiting to hang him. The other reason is she's like extremely worried about getting ambushed by Jorunn's 3 beasts mid hanging, mid lynching. And she really wants to be able to secure them and put them in a place where when they have what's called an ascension, it's like a very brief posthumous, like after death stint that they'll continue to live. A lot of beasts will have like very violent ascensions. She just wants to secure them, get them in a safe place, so there's no collateral damage and there's no ambush. So they're like about to go out on this hunt. Where we left off the story is Jorunn's in captivity. They're about to go out on this hunt to track down his beasts when his beasts wander into town, and he's like essentially turned himself in. So they've got Jorunn's beasts in chains, and they bring them over to this ferry that is taking them by boat down river to this much larger town with a much larger prison in order to hold them captive, called Edifice. So that's literally what just happened. They got them in chains. They're on the ferry, or they're not even on the ferry yet. They're being put on the ferry. And our leading chapter today is read by Morgan, reading for Katie Daniels, the ferry driver, if you will, the ferry woman.
Perfect. I love it. So Katie Daniels getting ready to escort these callings down the Lauren. Is it the Lauren River? Are we on Lauren River?
I think we are on the Lauren River. Yep.
Lauren River into Lucidus and Edifice, as I say the names for my wife. So she's going to come in. Are we good to go in, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you can come if you want to stand on this side and read. Perfect.
Hi, everyone. Where the boathouse and dock once stood, a ferry called the Katydid sat moored and waiting. The captain, a woman named Katie Daniels, lay in her bed in her cabin. She was told she would have a day or 2 of rest, but doubted she would get it. The water beacon of order hired her to escort a trio of fugitives downriver. The beacon also told her the hunt would begin that morning, but judging by the noises coming from the wharf, things were ahead of schedule. Downriver, in the neighboring town, a ferry slip lay empty. Only a moderate day awaited the captain, the one affectionately known around the waterlands, as the mariner. On account of the Lawrence flow, the trip from Lucidus to Edifice would be quicker than usual. The current rolled high and fast, putting all the usual obstructions deeper than her keel could reach. She dressed quickly and went to the deck to welcome her passengers. There she laid eyes on the fugitive beast for the first time.
Scene. And she did all of that while managing Keith, who is now kicking down my whiteboard. Snaps for Morgan.
Great job, Morgan.
They said great job. And if anyone's curious, we were on chapter 17, if you're following along in Behind the Shroud.
Beautiful. All right, now we're kicking it over to Saw, and we've got a couple of characters that are her emblems, her employees that are not the traditional characters that Dylan and I play, but we will be reading for Pierce and Newt. We're ready this time, Saw.
I will be Newt, Saw.
Okay.
I'm Pierce.
I won't steal it.
Thank you.
Chapter 18, Treaty Breach. The wharf buzzed with activity. Saul presided. She ran through her plan in her head, scoured for oversights, and directed emblems in all directions to get the katydid ready to depart. Emblem Candor ran down the gangplank with an armful of fur and stones. As requested, Beacon, they've cut the amulets from Adder's fur, he told her. He gave them to Gariel, who crushed them to powder in its jaws. Emblem, Dannon, and Gavian stood on the bridge, prepared to raise the alarm should anything go awry. Emblem Soria Pape, a tanned woman with dark features, prominent cheekbones, and shoulder-length curls, stood near the captives alongside her beast, Vox. Vox resembled a loaf-sized mantis, had iridescent purple carapace, retractable wings, triple-jointed arms with femoral and tibial spines, and a bioluminescent abdomen. Its core pulsed violet, an effect transmuting aura or a consequence of effort. Pape's eyes were pinched closed as Vox enacted an auric control mastery called dampening. It was the closest thing to a shackle on one's mind, as it prevented any beast in Vox's proximity from tapping into its mastery. Emblem Pierce, a man in many ways Pape's counterpart, shouted to her from the gunwale.
Beasts are secured.
They had Jorunn's beasts thoroughly immobilized by thick chains, the shackles around legs, around its peacock tail, and in so many directions over its broad-hatted mushroom head that it resembled the face of a clock. Saul doubted it could perform cloud jump, much less move. The same could be said for Adder, though tying up the bovine hound did as much good as burying a worm. Auric control and projection, as masteries of the mind, could not be subdued by chains. Same with the furry one, Venus, who laid sprawled out on the deck pressed under a casting net. It was held down so tightly to the wood that it looked splattered like Rodentia roadkill with 8 tails. It also had unchainable masteries, external creation, and auric transmission, which is why Saul deployed Emblem Pape. Even Impervious could not be raised in the presence of dampening, which seemed to indicate that Vox's mastery dealt its disruption on the auric front. Further evidence of this lied in the absence of Adder's armor stones, which had instantly fallen away the moment Vox began. Saul did not know for sure, nor did it matter. She just kept her distance. Once everything she could think of had been accounted for, she exchanged final words with Captain Daniels. A moment later, Katie's mariner calling surfaced in front of the bow, blew a column of water from its blowhole, and pushed off. Left behind, a 6-foot lonesome feather, vibrant and barbed, swirled drearily in an eddy. The beacon stayed at the edge of the ruined dock and watched the ferry until it disappeared downriver.
Why do you need us, Beacon?
Emblem Newt, one of the 6 who had stayed behind, asked. 2 on guard. Has anyone searched the Jester again? Candor said he had a moment alone with his beasts. Check his pockets, all of them, for any trinkets, stones, or amulets. Anything. Don't allow anything on his person. One of you ready the rope on the treaty beach. The other 3 establish a perimeter. We have 4 hours until the ferry arrives in Edifice. 5 until the drop, she said, dizzily holding up fingers. What are you planning, Jorunn? They were still a long way from being out of the woods. Saul knew she could not have caught Jorunn's beasts had he not allowed them to. She did not know if she did not know if she should be encouraged by his apparent acceptance of his faith or nervous about some forthcoming plan. One thing she could be certain of with every second that passed, with each additional oxbow between Jorunn and his beasts, his window of opportunity narrowed. Should Jorunn have a scheme, the ideal time to execute it had come and gone. Now his lease on sanity could be measured in hours. Once his beasts exited his connective range, he would not have the mental facilities to outwit her, though Saul dared believe he never did. His only true advantage, his mastery over his beasts, he squandered. Nothing about the last 2 days had gone according to plan, and yet here they were, with Jorunn and his beasts in custody. It was exactly what she wanted, but it came too easily. She had grown to be wary of ease. Being the water beacon of order, dealing with magnates of industry and other brokers of power, taught her that when one hand giveth, the other hand maketh mischief. One cannot look too closely at the gift for fear of falling victim to the trap. But Jorunn continued putting himself in compromising positions. Why? When she visited him at the pillory, he spoke of an invisible threat. He told her it would be easier to show her. He assured her that they both could still get what they wanted. She could provide a safe refuge for her people, and he could be absolved. An invisible threat. She sighed, buried her face in her hands, and imagined shedding a tear for her old friend. So much had changed since Cresthood, and yet so much had stayed the same. Jorunn's tenuous grip on reality had failed him, casting the man adrift, just as when they were young. He could not discern between the phantasms of imagination and what stood solidly before him. The Eldwiser taught her that life provided enough strain without indulging in conspiracy. She took that lesson to heart, which made it all the more devastating to watch Jorunn fall prey to his own fallacies, along with 12 others. As she walked back to the square, she eyed the beech tree where the series of deaths would end. A 13th life would be taken, and no more. At the edge of the woods stood Pendel the parser, watching her. She pitied him. He had come all this way to solve the case, just as she solved it on her own. She considered possibly that the enmity she felt looking at this bespectacled man could be misplaced. He surely did not deserve her scorn. Perhaps he reminded Saul of what motivated her to pin him in the first place, a hateful mistrust of herself. But she was overcoming it. It would be behind her once and for all by the time the day was done.
And scene. Weird
Great
little
job.
like pause in there for some reason before you came in after my character's line.
Oh. That is a wild accent. I love it.
I like to think of him as fantastically German.
Yeah. Hello, Newt.
Hello.
Really give this guy more than I'm your new friend and counselor.
No, that was awesome. And Matt, if you want to anything that you want to add in here, but it's like you are seeing this woman. She's like, yeah, I just want this done. Like we have this. There's like this. Why is Jorunn acting the way that he's acting? Why is he kind of giving himself up? That being said, the end is near. Is that like how you're writing this, Matt? You almost see this woman, kind of perfect for you today. Katie is like super tired. Saw is like, she's like, let's just get this done. Is that how you see it, Matt?
Your performance indicated none of that urgency. Saw you crushed it. That is how I see it. And she pities him. I think she's just like, this is the burden of responsibility is, technically she has got to be the one to make this call. And here's this guy who he's always been so imaginative, and he's always almost been like, at one point they're washing clothes in the river, and he's like in his mind playing around. He's like a polar bear or something, skinning a salmon. And she's just like seeing this guy be once removed from reality always. And now he's talking about invisible threats. It's like difficult to believe. It's just like, damn, man, like burying her head in her hands and just being like, Jorunn, it sucks that I have to do this. It's time. We got your beasts. You're getting hanged in 5 hours. Yeah. I think you nailed it.
Yeah, I think it was awesome. I think it's fun because it's almost like you can see where she's coming from, right? I think there's a lot of times where it's like, why are we using our imagination so much? But and not just because Jorunn's based off of me, but also what we're doing in schools. It's like, okay, but when should we stop using our imagination? I think it like as someone reads, it gives them this like question to ask themselves: should Jorunn be growing up? Is he onto something? That being said, Katie, I meant it. You crushed it. I thought like it's perfect timing, if anything, for this because it shows like what Saw's going through. Please get some rest. Please get the heck out of here. We are sending you nothing but love. And I think, are you back next week?
Yeah,
awesome.
Back next week. All my scheduling's good now. We're taken care of.
All right, we're sending you love, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me once again.
Not a problem.
Guys.
We love growing this with you.
You.
I'm curious, Matt, before we go into this next one, what do you think? I mean, do you think it gets to a point where you're like, yeah, man, imagination, enough's enough, grow up? Do you think in like just a philosophical sidebar? And if anyone has thoughts on it, feel free to let us know, or questions, please let us know. Thoughts, Matt?
Fortunately, I've selected a career path where that never has to be true. I think, yes, depending on where you are, there's probably a point where, it's over the top. But I think that creativity and imagination make you better at everything. And I also think that we all have an imagination. And I say that as a grandiose statement. Maybe there's some of you that don't have an imagination. Let's just put a caveat in there. If you're like, not me, and I'm gonna quote this whatever book. Most of us have imaginations and the ability to be creative, and they're double-edged swords. They will fight back if you don't nurture them. They want to be used. Maybe eventually, if you don't use your imagination and your creativity, it'll become dampened and maybe it'll go away. But if you have it and you're not using it, it will fight you. Like your mind will begin imagining on its own all kinds of ways that life could go sideways and terrible things can happen. But if you use it, if you direct it, then it's the double-edged sword. I can use this sword for good. Mm-hmm. Same with creativity. And so I think, can you outgrow this faculty that can make you better at everything? I don't want to. Mm-hmm. I want to continue to nurture it and direct it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm using imagination even as a business consultant every day. I use my imagination. I tell people I'd rather look at my role instead of a business consultant because that's pretty boring. Like telling people I'm a business consultant is just what I tell like my parents so they know what they tell their friends. Like it just seems very simple. Yeah. But it's like people come to me and they want to build a business and they tell me this like 5-year goal. But before that could happen, they have like these big pillars they need to go through. And before they can go through those pillars, they have next steps. I literally tell people that I work with, helping them make 6 figures plus. I view myself as a Jester sensei. And I'm like, you come to me because you have this dynasty you're looking to create. And before a dynasty can be created, we need to win wars. And before you win the first war, you need to win your next battle. Like me being able to look at my world through that lens makes it so much more enjoyable. And I show up in my authentic self because that's what means something to me. I even tell kids at schools, I'm like, hey, not everyone here is going to imagine having a Pokemon or going to Hogwarts, but some of us like sports and we imagine winning a championship. I think just knowing how to use it for the arena that you're in is like what's important.
Yeah.
But what does my character know? He's getting ready to die in a few short hours. So
thanks to his vivid imagination. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's definitely counting against him in this way. Mm-hmm. Imagination looked upon by somebody who has basically been serious out of their imagination. It just seems foolish. It's like, what purpose does this serve? I think Jorunn has a line early in the story where he's like, people don't recognize their medicine is like tomfoolery because they don't recognize their sickness is seriousness. Shall we?
Yeah, I think we shall. What do you got? 2, maybe 3 more chapters left?
Yep. Emberlight, Edifice. Yep, we could do 2 or 3. So let's dive in.
Sounds good.
Chapter 19, Emberlight. Pendelv played with a pair of rocks behind his back, the hagstone and another, which Jorunn told him came out of a treasure called a pyroclast. The official name of the stone was emberlite. While it looked interesting, it currently exhibited none of the mystical properties the Jester remarked upon. He had told the parser,
Emberlight promotes lucidity and understanding. It aids one in their ability to see truth by gleaming brightly, as though charged by molten lava, when its possessor is in need of clarity.
Pendelv did not make a habit of relying on stones to solve cases for him. The old parser would have chalked it up as an imprisoned man's cry for help. As one passes through the elongated hours of true captivity, with their death on the horizon, one often seeks an outside ally. People can feel as if they are only as detained as their freest partner. Prisoners often offered the parser gifts, more so bribes, but this marked only the second time the offering had been a rock, both from the Jester. 3 days ago would have struck him like a child's gift, like a thing with no inherent value, albeit priceless on account of the value ascribed to it by the gifter. Now, as he took the emberlight in his palm, he felt the weight of its significance, especially posed next to the hagstone, which served as a reminder that the truth remained the truth, no matter how strange or difficult to believe. Short.
I love it. Do we keep going? I have one thing I'd love to say here. Fun fact, I actually give rocks as gifts to people. Was it difficult, like you knowing everything about me, to start putting like, you're like, oh, Dylan loves rocks. Dylan is pretty much an idiot jester. Was it difficult to like be like, I'm going to add rocks to this? Or does it help you when like you're starting to create of like throwing something into the ring?
No, it's a really fun plot device, and I actually think it's a really fun way to build a world too. That, you know, rocks themselves have these mystical properties all their own. Like you could find something. I mean, it so appeals to the treasure hunter in me, or the rock hound in you. It's like literally what this is about. Being able to wander the wilderness and find something that everybody thinks is worthless, but is actually genuinely, mystically, like, awesome.
I was gonna say powerful, man. So you think of a rock, it's like how the heck a rock is formed over like centuries of time. We'll move on to Edifice. This will be real, just so everyone knows. Edifice is the city in which Jorunn's callings are being detained. Correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Hit me.
Sweet. Chapter 20, Edifice. Luke spent the morning clinging to the aft of the Katydid. The caiman beast found a spot in the trough of a wave outside of Vox's range, out of the spray, against a patch of black paint that it found easy to mimic. The hiding spot could not be seen by humans, nor did it alter any active processes that could give it away by association. The wrong ripple might draw attention, though it would take a keen eye or a special type of sight to detect the calling. While in perfect camouflage, it preferred to play it safe. The beast knew, as did Pendelv, that a time approached when their connection would become strained. No more strained than Jorunn with his beasts, which was the point. Jorunn's confidence in his calling's ability did not rub off on the parser, but for maybe an Eldwiser, nobody could connect with their beast 20 leagues apart. He was driven by a curiosity to understand what the Jester was experiencing at any moment. Without chains forcing Luke any further than what was comfortable, Pendelv could make a strategic assessment of the extent of the Jester's madness. Yet, as the ferry drew into Edifice, Luke comfortably, uninterruptedly, and impossibly continued sharing its mind with Pendelv. For no reason they could fathom, their connection had amplified significantly. As for the state of Adder, and Vunis, Luke could not say. A full garrison of emblems stationed in Edifice, and as many privately sanctioned guards for the Bashans, who were hyper-wealthy magnates of mining, waited at the harbor. They surrounded the captives upon arrival. Luke slipped into the water and swam a breath upstream before doubling back to the grassy hills on the west side of town. By the time the caiman beast gained a view, Jorunn's 3 beasts were completely occluded by their captors. A force of over 40 and their beasts swarmed, making escape a laughable prospect. Of course, Luke had yet to receive permission to intervene. So the beast waited, watched. It got a sense of its surroundings. Edifice made Lucidus look like a shanty town. It was the seat of the water beacon of infrastructure, Corliss Weed. More substantially, it was the birthplace of Hassan Bashan. Beacon Weed and the renowned builder were known more broadly by their nicknames. the maker and the breaker. Lucidus was cobbled together with wood, limestone, and stucco, had dirt roads and canvas pavilions, and sheltered a population of several thousand. Edifice was built of milled basalt and forged metal. It had brick roads, a canal, a harbor, several wharfs, and a veritable castle and keep. An aqueduct carried water through the city to vast pools, bathhouses, fountains, and hanging gardens. Pilots dotted the air and voiced their presence from tall columnal roosts. Mariners and vessels occupied the harbor, dozens of them both engaged in commerce. In Lucidus, the hanging drew the attention of the whole town. In Edifice, a similar affair would scarcely turn heads. Luke observed Jorunn's beasts ushered into the castle, a 30-foot wide, 20-foot tall portcullis raised upon their entry and lowered behind them. The reptilian column followed the assembly into the castle grounds, only falling back when they marched through a second and third set of metal gates, depositing all three of their captives in the courtyard of a central donjon. It took a massive cage to imprison which was exactly what they had. The existence of an inner and outer portcullis on the courtyard dungeon led Luke to estimate it had walls a foot thick made of milled basalt. The courtyard shared a wall with the donjon's interior chambers, rooms that could be used to imprison smaller captives. The central courtyard was open to the air, but prevented escape by way of a grid of thick metal bars in place of a roof. From the top of a stanchion, Pendel's caiman beast stared down through the grid at Adder, and Vunis. It also noted two teams of man and beast guards stationed outside the inner and outer portcullises. Despite being in the most secure prison Luke had ever seen, Jorunn's callings appeared not worsened by the vast distance between them and the Jester. Jorunn is showing signs of distress, Pendelv informed Luke. Is he faking?
I think love that chapter. We're coming up next on his side, but two things that stand out in that chapter for me, just for like readers coming in. And I think if you tune in and you're reading along, for me, it's so much easier to read along with like reading the words with you, right? So we recommend if you're following, feel free to pick up the book more just because it makes the experience easier to understand as you're reading it. Two things that stand out in here is like, we can clearly tell callings should not be able to be this far away from their human counterpart. Typically a calling stays within a proximity of 50 to 100 meters.
Yeah.
And then
totally.
The more connection you have with it, it's called a connective range. The more connection you have with this calling, the further you can get. But we're talking about 20 leagues apart, right? So a couple of things that I see the parser notice. One, it's like, how is Jorunn able to do this? And then the other thing that comes in, it's like, wait, how am I able to do this? How is Luke able to be this far away from me? And if anything, like you said, it feels more amplified. Do we want to talk why that's a possibility now, or do we just want to state that, yes, you should be seeing that?
I think it's answered, but let's just say it is answered. Mm-hmm. And it's even sort of hinted at in chapter 19, but you don't have all the information yet. Like if you go back and you look at chapter 19 and you read, what does Jorunn tell Pendelv about the Emberlight? Then that might speak to it a little bit. It does come full circle. Consider it an open loop right now.
Yeah, I think open loops, again, we come back to, just for anyone new, it's like open loops are normal. Like it's fine to read a book and be like, wait, what is going on right now? It'll get answered, right? And especially it's like we're reading a mystery. I think the cool part of this book and what I like is like, I'm trying to figure out what's happening. It's like as Pendelv is trying to figure it out. So you're really like lockstep with the protagonist in a story like this. That being said, shall we move on?
Yep.
Should we would this be the last chapter, we think? Just because it looks like in the next one we have Saw too.
Yep, exactly.
All right, so Jorunn's callings have been taken to Edifice. Jorunn is still in Lucidus. So this will be from Jorunn's point of view, 20 leagues away from his callings. Chapter 21. Waiting to die. The Jester felt naked, not because he was naked, though he wore nothing that could be considered clothes. The livestock blanket the beacon had given him smelled of piss and musk, Behind that rancid tarp, he was down to his skivvies. However, that was not why he felt naked. He missed his rocks. Vunis had snuck his treasure to him, the connection-infused emberlight, but he passed that over to the parser. He knew Saw would have him searched, and she had. He would not have that prize falling into the wrong hands, especially since the possessor would be treated to a significant expansion in connective range. There you go, everybody answered. The same as the white paste covering the Jester's skin granted him. Plus, if he lived to see dusk, he would ask Pendelv to give it back. The parser did not understand its power, though he had to have his suspicions. The Jester supposed that the clarity he maintained with his scouting, camouflaged calling raised a question or two within him. One does not suddenly have their connection drastically amplified without noticing, unless nothing happened on this day to truly test their connection, unless his connective range extended well beyond the distance from Lucidus to Edifice. He was colored with intrigue by the triple beastborn, more than a little curious about his beasts, their masteries, and their nature. Perhaps his inkling that the man kept secrets was due to the secrets the Jester kept. Down below in the square, people gawked at him. Whoopsie, he had gotten distracted by his thoughts. The people expected to see a man crazed, and for a little while longer, he ought to meet expectations. So he wailed with magnificent angst. So, I mean, I asked the question, and so it's answered in the very next chapter. I mean, we see that one, this ember light is what's amplifying this connective range. If anyone has been following, you know that a couple of weeks ago, the Jester was putting this like hot white paste on his body when Pendelv first sees him. That is this type of rock that helps with connective range. So it's almost like Jorunn has given himself and Pendelv. Am I supposed to say this? No.
No, you can say this. I'm just going to
superpowers here is what I was going to say. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Matt.
that works. I was just going to make a point of clarification there. So it's called chalkstone. It's this white stone. They melt it down. They coat it over Jorunn's skin, but not before. What happens right before this is Vunis transmits the intention of connection into the chalkstone. They melt it. Then he covers himself. So it's kind of like chalkstone does not have the same powers as Emberlight does. That's from Vunis.
Apologies. Connection infused chalkstone. It's a chalkstone which allows them to kind of like mill it down to this like white paste.
Right.
That being said, this guy's supposed to be out of connective range. He's playing this part of wailing and angst. And I believe it's in a couple of hours now. He's set to be hanged. And that's what we're going to come up against. Hopefully, well, not next week. It'll be 2 weeks. Next week, I'll be at an offsite in Georgia. So we will be back in 2 weeks, if that's okay.
Yep. Well, yeah, I guess that's okay.
You could. I mean, we could go next week without me, and someone just reads that one small part from Jorunn, because it does seem like Jorunn's out for 3 to 4 chapters now.
His poem from the Muses.
Yes.
What if you were to at some point this week read that poem in a video, and we'll
play it? Yeah. Love it, man. Absolutely.
If you want to get in character and pretend to be standing on a gallows saying your final words, just keep that off your neck.
Well, yeah. Well, no, we don't want that, man. Yeah, man. I'll record it and I'll send it over. But I think this is a good place to stop for this week, mostly because we're gassed. I just got like 3 missed calls because I have to plan a bachelor party and prices are going up. So I should probably get back to these guys. But if you've been tuning in, we appreciate it. Feel free to come ask questions. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the reactions. We can't build this without a following that's interested in it. I think that's very important to understand. As we send things to this Hollywood screenwriter to give us a shot, it's like we want to be able to show people, hey, we have a following. We have people interested in what we're doing. So y'all's interest means the world to us. Thank you so much. If you know anyone that could be interested, make sure you're following us on social platforms. We're on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. We have a Facebook group. Join all of them. You'll kind of see where you can ask questions and how we can help you. And stay tuned for more stuff from Unfound. Anything from you, Matt?
I think that's a good stopping point. Appreciate you. See you next week.
Thanks, everybody.